And welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 839. Talk shortstops on Tuesday. We're talking second base tonight, and rejoining me to talk all things second base is my co-host on the show. It's been a little while, as it's been a wonky schedule of mine, wrapping up team previews, all that good stuff. But he's back, baby, and he'll be back more often due to we're almost in baseball. It's scary, Ben. We're like 3 months away, but I just kind of gave it away. You can find him on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. Benton, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, but they knew who you were talking about, hopefully by now, so you didn't give anything away. Yeah, it's I'm getting very excited now for my main events, which are less than 2 weeks away. At least the first one is, and then going back to it, I was telling you before we hopped on the stream that it doesn't feel like a month, but it has been a month since we've actually done a bench with Bubba. But we did do the one live stream with Joe Rico though for the listener league for you and Ryan, so it hasn't exactly been a month, but technically for this show it has been, which is wild to think because it doesn't feel that long.
Yeah, it didn't feel that long, but we're flying by. We'll have a fab run coming up in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be recapping fab every week. And it's go time. So that kind of leads me, before we talk second base, I wanted to get your thoughts because you wrote an article for the Patreon draft kit about your DC targets versus fab league targets. We're not going to talk specific targets here, but just more of a generic conversation, as there's still people doing draft and holds. Don't get me wrong. Those still exist out there, but they're going to start dwindling, and pretty much everyone is. I've been in full fab mode for a while. I quit draft and holds a while back. You did your auction like a week ago or within the last week, your DC auction. So it's fab season. You mentioned your main event is 9 days away for those keeping track at home. That'll be coming up in New Jersey. Your first main event of 3, I believe. I might be speaking out of school there.
That's correct.
But I wanted to kind of just have a general discussion on transitioning from your draft and hold mindset to your fab. But first, how did draft or DC for you? You don't play 50s. How did draft champion season do for you, like for prep wise, just in general?
Definitely help with the prep. It's always I don't know. It's a common
especially
thing
when you start
say.
so late.
If some normal person were to hear when I start, they'd be like, "That's late." Yeah,
man, on this show, it is.
Yeah, I get so much crap for my thoughts on October drafting and November drafting, but we won't go there right now. So actually, what I've been doing lately, I did yesterday. I think was I went through my lineups for my. Technically, I have 7 DCs, but one's the DC auction, which you were kind of referring to, but 6 of traditional snake draft DCs, and I was going through my starting lineups to see, okay, who's got notifications like they're out currently right now or their day-to-day stuff like that. And I've definitely gotten a little snake bitten pitching wise. And then even in the Discord today, someone mentioned, I think it was because of Quinn Priester. He has his wrist injury, and I was interested in drafting him. I have him ranked pretty highly still in my personal rankings, and someone was like, at least it's not Schwellenbach or something like that. And, who I only have one share, but that one team has Schwellenbach on it. It has Priester, who may be out, is not unsure yet. It has Lindor, who broke his handmate, Jackson Holiday. Actually, it has all 3 handmate guys. It has Lindor, Holiday, Westberg. I drafted Rodon because
your fault. Got it.
Yeah, this is all. Yeah, well, it's all my fault. This one team, I took Rodon because my pitching depth was already kind of shaky, and look what. So now I have 2 injured pitchers between him and Schwellenbach, and then a third with Priester potentially. So at least that one team is taking the brunt of everything, which I'm okay with. But in general, I'm still happy with how my teams look for my DCs. I tried some various builds along the way too. I did take one of the big 3 starting pitchers in the first round. It was a crochet team. I don't think I'm going to want to do that in my main events, not to give anything away, but I guess it depends on the right time. And they're going to go probably a little bit earlier anyway in the main events than DCs anyway. It all depends on KDS and all that. But definitely some changing philosophies, at least when it comes to closer probably, and also just the type of players I'm probably going to prioritize more in my main events.
Yeah, no, it's interesting thinking about the DC mindset you said about depth. My pitching's bad. I'll take this chance here. Whatever. As you go through it, especially in a slow draft, because news comes out while you're drafting, which could change your whole philosophy in the process. Yeah, now you're doing fab. It's a quick draft. Like your main event will take you about 3.5 hours, probably, give or take. Depends where that goes. Like an OC takes 2 hours. So you're in, you're out. the knowledge you have going in pretty much is what you're going to get coming out. Now, if you're doing a live draft, like when you're in New Jersey or Vegas, there's two breaks or one break. I can't remember. I think it's two breaks that go on there, and so the draft takes a little longer, so you can kind of mull over things and see what's going on. But in general, you don't have a week and a half to draft your team, and a lot's about to change. So you can't make those like, well, things have gone south. We got to adjust here, or take a chance here, or whatever. You got to have your guys, and maybe you take more chances in a fab. Like in a 12 team, you could, in a 15, maybe not so much because I know you want that solid base. Um, as you're doing your prep, how is your prep, I guess, changing from DC to? I know, like we talked about the roadmaps we've done, building your auction roadmaps, your draft snake road maps. We've done all that, but like, how is your prep changing now that you're switching from DCs to going? Okay, I'm drafting a main event here pretty soon.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty good timing because one of the patrons DM'd me this a little while ago asking about the roadmap that you're referring to for his DC that he just jumped into, and I told him I don't do a roadmap for my DCs. I kind of just want to do a little more organically, and because I don't have that experience really for the current season when I jump into them as much. So I want to kind of see what the draft, quote unquote, kind of gives me and just see how things feel in the moment. But yeah, so we mentioned the roadmap. I wrote about it on the Patreon for you guys. I'll definitely make one of those for all three of my main events. The exception was I did do a auction one for my auction DC because auctions are different than a normal DC, of course. A little more, you can prep. There's a lot more that chaos that goes on into an auction than a snake draft, so that's why. So, but also one thing I have done already, kind of. I don't think I'm going to do it again. Is I've kind of slightly tweaked my personal rankings for more of a fab mindset where, or just because of changing perspectives, because I try not to, I don't want to change my rankings too much because it's a kind of a burdensome process the way I have it set up in my file. And so I did like a reset around the auctions middle of last month where I kind of moved guys up based on how I felt about them once I started drafting in DCs, because I'll make my rankings before I start drafting, and then as I'm going through DCs, I realize, okay, maybe I actually don't want this guy this high, or I like this guy, so maybe I'll move him up just to maybe get him jump AVP or something like that. So I did that kind of transition from DC to Fab rankings, and then I also want to go through roster resource hopefully this weekend and just update the projected roster spots for the player pool, because I was looking today. Someone mentioned it. The Nationals already had a big shakeup with their projected lineup on roster resource. So, and there's reason behind it too. So it's not just like Jason Rodriguez is just doing it off a whim. It's based on the spring training lineups, and I'm sure he's watching all that pretty closely because Mike Curlin isn't anymore. No, I'm not gonna miss Mike. He's busy, but
no, it's no excuses. He's just lazy.
Yeah, so stuff like that. So and and it's 5 days out. KDS will run, and like it's funny you remembered my date. The 14th is my main event, so I think that means the 9th it should run. So I won't be able to do my roadmap until at least the 9th, knowing what my pick is. But yeah, so I'll do a little prep work this weekend, hopefully, and then kind of get, I don't know. I haven't really looked at ADP in a while, so when we pulled up ADP for the show tonight, also it's the OC, so I'm used to the DC ADP. It's going to change naturally, but even guys are moving up a lot compared to what I was used to in the DC, so I'll have to adjust to that too.
Yeah, like I you don't need my help with prepping, but there's one thing I want to go check out, even just for like the auction I'm going to do on the 20th. That's how the 14th is easy for me because you're the weekend before I'm in Vegas, so it helps out a lot. But I was looking at Twitter, and like Rob Silver is in the last DC for Honey right now, and he was mentioning some of the pitching getting pushed up so much. He said it feels like main event season, and this happens every year, Ben. Like as we get closer and closer, you see these drafts like start to shift as things take place, and then when main events happen, like people are going to like Rob DiPietro and Phil DeShow and like totally Sousa. Nelson's going to stream the first main event here in a couple nights, I think, is what it is. You guys are going to see some boards that make you go, what the heck's going on? Ben's gonna look at that and go, okay, we're back. Here we go. I guess this is what it is. That's why we joke about it. Like Ryan, me, you, all of us, when we do shows in like January, we always are like, okay, this is gonna change a lot. Like it's a yearly tradition. So as you're planning it makes a lot of sense. And I'm looking forward to seeing how those shifts change. It's my point. Rob Silver doing the 4 honey. He was mentioning the changes. I am really looking forward to seeing the completed ADP and the ADP tracker that Ryan has built, because I think that's going to be like the closest thing, even for me, using it for auctions, kind of see what prices might be. Might be. I know they're different. They're different, but like you're getting into the high stakes, things are going to change a little bit. So really curious to use ADP in that regard. When you're shifting now from DC to Fab, like DC, we always talk about, okay, you want like 22, 23 hitters, all this, you want X amount from each position. You have a whole philosophy on your roster build, and that could dictate a lot of who you pick, when you pick, so on and so forth. Now that you move into the Fab mindset, do you have a specific way you like to build your roster there that might vary, or is it just kind of business as usual? I know you're going to build your roadmap, obviously, and we talked about it in the roadmap episode, but for those that missed it, let's kind of rehash things.
Yeah, I so one thing I do is I cut or I take a screenshot of all my draft boards, at least the first 30 rounds for all my leagues, and put them into like a single Excel page. It's just to see like, okay, if there's any trends that I've done or like what builds kind of look good to me. It's there's nothing substantial behind it because it could look good and end up being a poor strategy because I don't know yet what's going to happen with these teams, but I can just all I can go off is how they look to me and see if I like it or not for now. But the another thing too is which I haven't done yet, but I definitely want to do in this next week and a half is go back to the article I wrote for the Patreon and just go to like the data that drove it and look at and the quick overview of this article was it was comparing Razzball player rater dollar values to the converted main event ADP dollar values from last year and seeing, and it's also looking at like 2 years before that too. So it's 3 years of data, seeing how different positions in different rounds return their value based on the main event ADP. So I want to go back and refresh that analysis because that was mainly for me. And I figure, okay, it's cool enough to share. Like it's just data, and the patrons and whoever else sees it, it's up to them to use it how they want to use it. Like I'm not telling everyone how to use it. So at least the data is there for them, but how I'm going to utilize it could vary from other people. So I don't mind publishing it for everyone to see. So I want to look at that and try to maybe look, okay, where do I not want to maybe take a position, or where should I try to target a position, stuff like that. And the other thing I want to do too is, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but I've had 2 very successful main event teams in the past, and I want to go back and look at those draft boards and to see if there's any commonalities between them. I already know in my head certain things I kind of want to do that I remember from last year with that one team that finished 12th overall, and there's like some strategy to it that I still like, and it's kind of been a part of my overall strategy for main events going forward, and just see what else I did that worked out in those leagues. Because I remember shifting the players I would target at certain points in drafts in DCs to the main event because of the Fab component and also what I'm trying to do. Like in a DC, I'm more focused about the winning the league and building like a team that's balanced, whereas in a main event, I have to beat 854 other teams ideally, and then also I have Fab to supplement my pick. So it's not the same strategy as my DCs I've done so far. So just trying to further break that mindset that I've had the last 2 months.
No, that's why I wanted to ask you about that, because you can definitely change things. I'm not. Like, some people say it's you take more chances, but I don't think you need to take more chances. It's more
Strategic
so,
chances,
yeah. It's like,
probably.
yeah, exactly. So that's the thing is, some people go, okay, to win the overall, I got to take all these ceiling plays. Yes and no. Like, if you take too many ceiling plays, eventually Fab won't matter at that point. Like if they
Exactly.
all start falling apart. But if you pick your spots, as Ben's talking about, that's where he goes through the player pool. Maybe looks at positions that might be weaker than others. That's why we're trying to do these positional. I call them previews. You can call them reviews. You can call them whatever you want, because it's just more of a let's see where we're at before we really kick it high into Fab world. And yeah, it's a position. It's statistical. Like when you're looking at all these, you're going to look at your boards again. You're doing your research this weekend. You're doing your research when after you get your KDS on the 9th. You said. Um, are you trying to build specific, I guess, pockets of positions or statistics? Because you like you say you don't want to make it sound bad, but you have had two very successful main event teams. So you kind of have an idea of what it takes to get there. Let's put it that way. And obviously, things change year to year, but in the end, to me, there's a reason why so many guys, similar players, are in the running. Let's put it that way. So as you start planning this out, are you looking at specific positions, statistics? How do you kind of decide where you want to take your chances? I guess.
Well, I typically build first. When I do the road mapping, I'll look at catcher and closer first because those are probably the least or the most scarce positions. Because in theory, there's every team in a 15-team league can only have two of each. There's 30 starting catchers in the majors, 30 closers in theory. And there's actually, we know there's fewer than 30 because of committees. So I go there first, and then I'll pull up. So as I'm going through, it's kind of going to the roadmap article, but I'll look at ADP. I'll filter my sheet based on ADP for my picks. Because like you said, once I have KDS, I'll know where each of my picks will be, and then look at who's going in that range. But at the same time, too, we mentioned it briefly that the main events are crazy. So even if I'm using main event ADP by the time I draft in New Jersey, it could completely change. Also, I'll be in the second live main event that's going to be running because everything else will be online up until that point. I'm doing the 2 o'clock. There's going to be a 10 o'clock earlier that morning that is live. So that could be a whole different animal too. That the fact that it's going to be live. But for the most part, I don't know, because everyone else will be looking at the same ADP that I am. So they might even jump certain players more because they see, okay, everyone's using the same ADP now. But so that means they know where someone's probably going to go. So let me go around earlier or stuff like that. So it probably matters more in the earlier rounds, like maybe the first top 150 is probably a little more stable, but after that, who knows? So I can only do so much with my planning because a lot could change in the actual draft.
Well, that's why I enjoy. I know yourself and so many main eventers will be glued to these first online ones
I'm watching
because
Saturday.
as I'm saying, you guys will be addicted to this thing. And if I was available, I'd sit and watch it. I got plans, but the good thing is I can rewatch it later. And I'm very intrigued to see kind of where things move and shake. Like I said, it's high stakes is high stakes. It's things will rub off on each other. Not everything, like OCs are much different. We've been streaming OCs, but this 15 team idea, it's a little different. So I guess I kind of know the answer to this, but I'll throw it out there. So you keep referencing the ADP. How much are you using strictly the main event ADP once it comes out, or are you going to kind of use a blend of what you've been seeing? All like what are you using to focus on as you get ready to go to the table?
I typically just use main event
Okay.
because it's
I figure a smaller sample. That's what I wanted to ask.
so that's why it's also good. Well, it's two ways to look at it. Either you try to get an early one where there's no ADP to go off of, and maybe you kind of hopefully use that to your advantage.
From somebody who does the meatball draft, it's very risky. Just gonna throw that out there.
I know, yeah. So that's why I try to be a little more conservative, and also we keep getting injuries, so I don't want to take someone in my first main event in like 4 days, for example, and then they're out for 3 months. So I'd rather wait because I did think about moving up one of my main events to before New Jersey, but I figured just keep it where it is. So yeah, definitely just use main event, and then I there should be enough done at that point when I draft in New Jersey where I can actually where it'll be available because I think it's three main events. I think is what they changed it to for it to appear.
Usually it's 3 of any draft before it shows up. Usually, so yeah, after your New Jersey weekend, I think is when it'll pretty much hit the website for all the Vegas fiends. Is what I'll say.
Oh yeah, then Vegas has its own there's main event ADP, then there's Vegas main event ADP. That's all different too because of the live component.
It's nuts. It's eight drafts in one room at the same time. It's fun. Ryan and I walk around. We record stuff in between break. It's pretty wild watching the boards and seeing this and that. And then I remember there's some news that dropped right after the first break last year. Those couple people didn't get it. Let's put it that way.
I forget what it was. I remember that.
Yeah, it was interesting to see because you could hear the buzz going around, and didn't happen.
It actually may have been McClanahan. Actually, I think.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think it was Shane O'Mac. You are 100% correct because people were still in on him. There's the slight concern, so he dropped a little bit, but still people were taking their chance. Didn't pan out well. Any final thoughts on transitioning from draft and hold draft champions formats to fab before we talk second base?
No, it's just I kind of want to do like another draft because I haven't done a snake draft in a little while, but then that means I have more fab to do, and I don't want to do that. So I think I'm just gonna I've done enough in the last couple of
Yeah,
months, so I think I should be okay. But
I legit.
it's gonna be tough.
I I texted Ryan the other day because I stopped doing DCs a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I am fiending for a draft right now. Like I have an OLAC set up next week. Maybe I might do a second OLAC just for practice. And I got Vegas, and I'm just like chomping at the bit to draft. And no offense to the folks of Bar for TGFBI, those don't scratch the itch like the other formats. So yeah, so that's I feel you there. I'm needing some reps to get things going. All right, let's talk some second base here. Let's get to just initial thoughts before we start talking players. What are your overall thoughts on second base? Because this was great. I gave you four positions to pick. You picked second base to discuss. It's a position that has a couple, I guess, top heavy picks, but a lot of it kind of congregates later in drafts. So, what are your thoughts when you look at the second base position for fantasy this year?
Yeah, I think third might be worse. So I don't know. I want to pick second because everyone always says how bad and different it is compared to the other ones, which I get. So I figured why not tackle it? It'll be a little bit more interesting of a uh, pod topic. But yeah, in general, I haven't had a problem with it because you just have to appreciate that ideally the players are just gonna like equally decrease in value as you go through the draft board, and it's just a position. So as long as you have targets along the way or people that you would be okay drafting, you should be fine because you don't need to draft Jazz Chisholm or Ketel Marte just because they're by far the best second baseman. Maybe it matters more in a shallower league, but at least with my 15 teamers, it definitely does matter more. So like a Yahoo league, for example, where you have smaller rosters and only 12 teams, you'd rather have the better player at each position because in the like you'd want a top catcher in that format because it's a one catcher league, so it's only 12 being started. You'd rather have the top of second baseman if you can pull it off too. So there's some advantages depending on your league size, but for me, I'm fine waiting or just seeing who drops past ADP as long as I like them. So I think it's you just gotta know the entire starting player pool. At least, well, you and I both know more than that because we've been doing DCs. But now that we're going to smaller roster sizes, we can focus in more on the startable players. And I think there's definitely plenty of options. You just might have to wait to the 15th round or something to grab your starter, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, it's definitely not doing fab leagues for second base. It's a much more appealing position. The depth of the position, having to fill depth in a DC is not great by any means. It's very, very stressful. It almost makes you push guys up at second base, which is not. It's why the transition from DC to Fab. I want to have that talk, especially for second base. Um, yeah, it's a position where I might dabble in a couple of the early guys, but for the most part, I sit and wait. But when I wait, you kind of have to have your guys and be willing to attack because you're not alone in that draft room. A lot of people wait. That's why a lot of the ADP sits in that same range together. So it's one of those things where, and you'll see with when the main events come out, Ben is well aware of this. It's a lot of get your guy season. There's logic to the drafts. There's not a insanity, but there's a lot of like get your guys. You'll sit and see a player get jumped a few rounds. You're like, whoa. But hey, that's what they do. They have their list. They have what they want. They have their roadmaps, and they go and attack. Is kind of how it goes. So you have to be able to. It's not like an auction adjustment, but it's definitely an adjustment when you're in there. So second base, that could be one of those positions we'll see when you'll be in that first draft and you'll see like, oh crap, he just went like 3 rounds before he's supposed to go because someone also thinks the same thing about second base. So something to keep in mind there. You mentioned kind of going later in the draft when you're drafting second baseman. A common theme when we talk middle infield is you want speed, you want speed, you want speed. Well, you can get a little bit of different things at second base. What are you trying to get at second base statistically, or does it just kind of depend on the draft for you?
Ultimately, it depends on the draft, but in a vacuum, I'd probably want to have some speed because there's more guys at second that do steal versus third and first, obviously, and catcher too. So you're probably not going to get steals at catcher first and third unless you get someone like Michael Garcia, J Ram, Agustin Ramirez, or the top ones that come to mind. Maybe Sal Stewart, he could steal. So if you do take Ketel Marte, for example, then you got to make sure maybe you pair J Ram with Ketel Marte and then you're fine. That's a good combo to do. But and even like someone like Brandon Lau, who will I don't know if I don't think we're going to talk about him, but he's definitely a roster build pick because he goes around guys at second who steal bases, and if you're doing well in your projected steals, if you're tracking them, then maybe you can go for the power that Lau provides, and then you're fine. It's so really it comes down to where you are in the draft and what you have so far. But going into a draft, I would probably expect to get steals from my second baseman.
Yeah, ideally, like I said, you want speed at middle infield, but also to your point, like the Brandon Lau, it's one of those things we talk about when you kind of wait in drafts. You're gonna take a hit somewhere. The longer you wait, they're not 5 category studs. It's a broken record, but you're getting 4 categories where a lot of these second, like that glob of second base, we're talking you're 180, 200, 230. Like the longer you go, obviously now you're getting closer to probably 3 category guys, so on and so forth. Now you still get some steals. I'm not saying you can't, but like with the Brandon Loud point, I think it's like even Gleyber Torres, who we'll talk about, and some others. It's much more of a fill your team needs at second base. Is almost what it comes down to. Where ideally you like speed, and maybe if you do, you go like a Nico Horner early, which I tend to do from time to time, get batting average and speed there. But if you want like kind of a good floor, like second base to me is a lot of good floor. Is kind of what it feels like. There's really not a ton of standouts, and we'll get to that because when you look at second base, like right out the gate, there's one player going in the top 2 rounds, and these are 12 team OCs, by the way. There's 3 players in the top 50 picks. That's it. Actually, and there's 3 in the top 100. Those are the only ones in the whole cha-cha. When you think about it, there's only 7 in the top 150. So my point being, A, that shows you a lot of people are waiting for one. B, talent starts depleting. So floor seems much more in play unless you take one of those early ones, is where I'm going with that. Long-winded way of saying that. So to your point, you're looking for speed. I want speed also from my middle infield, but you can kind of get a couple different angles with this. You can also try to take some upside, which we'll get to shortly as well. So anything else on second base? We kind of like combined all the thoughts in those little discussions there. But when you're looking at second base statistically, strategy wise, anything else we left out there?
No, I'll say so across my 6 DCs that my first second baseman was Luis Garcia Jr. That was my starting second baseman. Then I took Jackson Holiday. Whoops, but he could be okay. Then Stott, and then then I double tapped Jazz and Cattell. I ended up playing Jazz at third base for the because of the dual eligibility. But so I went from waiting like 10 rounds my first 3 drafts, and then taking the top 2 in my fourth one. Then I waited again till Chase Mydroth. That was very late in my third DC. And then I took Nico Horner. So I've been all over the place. So I'm comfortable with whatever happens, I guess is the point of what I'm trying to say. So you can build a team with any second base strategy. It's just knowing where they go in ADP, and then also kind of like we talked about the stats. By taking Jazz, I was able to take Ketel Marte right after because I have speed for my third baseman now, so it could work.
Yep, totally agree. And yeah, just looking at my second base player shares, like it's mainly draft and holds a couple of fabs because I have done a few. I have a lot of chase my drafts, but that's DC plays, just depth. They're like Otto Lopez. I have he's tied with my draft as my most rostered. He's in 5 of like my 12 leagues, I think, or 13 leagues. Yeah, I do a lot, Ben. Don't I can't see you right now. I can only imagine. Luis
It's
Garcia is
nothing
my
that I
other
don't know already.
fourth. Yeah, I know. It's not like I'm not surprising you, but like, yeah, like if I Luis Garcia. So the point I'm trying to make is my most rostered second baseman are later in drafts. Is what it comes down to when you look at it. I've like my most rostered, I guess, high priced guy is Nico Horner, but I only have him in 3 leagues at 21% of my leagues. So it's not like I'm forcing the envelope in these ones. All right. Speaking of Nico Horner, let's do some ADP debates. This is a nice way to kind of discuss the player pool as we go, is the way I look at it. So, like, we skip over the Jazz, Cattell, Terang. Like, it's kind of one of those if you want them, you take them. I guess we could just pocket it real quick. So, the top 3 guys, like, I guess I have a Jazz share. He must come up as I only have like 1 or 2 shares, so wasn't a big topic there. I have maybe 1 Cattell. I don't think I have any Terang. Like that where they're going, Ben, I want either like a shortstop, an outfielder. I'm going pitching. I just never take these guys. What are you kind of doing with those top three in the top 50 there?
Yeah, it's kind of same as you. I have no Turang yet, and then the reason I took Jazz and Marte was because that was my crochet team, and I just wanted to make up for missing out on a first round bad. So Jazz was the power and the steals, and then Jazz comes with a bad average. So that's why I took Marte because he's not going to steal necessarily, but he has a pretty solid average. They're definitely risky health wise from the two, but you're not going to avoid risk fully in a draft. I won't name my third hitter. Some people may already know what that was, but yeah. So yeah. I'm not gonna necessarily kind of like along the lines you just said. I'm not gonna necessarily go out of my way to target Jazz or Marte because they do have concerns, the two of them. Maybe if someone does do a pitcher first build, maybe they're more appealing the way I viewed it because of the upside they both have. I think their downside maybe holds them back a little bit with the injuries and Jazz with the average, but in the right build, maybe it works. So, and then with Turang, I just don't really know what to expect stats wise because he went from being no power, all speed to now like a mix of both. Does he go back to what it used to be? Does he keep the power? Does he increase it? Does he keep the power gains and then go back to stealing 30 plus bases? I don't know what to expect. So I'd rather go somewhere else than kind of risking that.
Yeah, totally agree. There's a lot of risk reward in those pockets. Like I don't hate Jazz. I've taken a few Jazz, but I haven't really gone anywhere else. I've slowly liked Marte more because he has such a good batting average asset. But I'm just not forcing it because I don't feel like he's a five category guy. And at that point in the
Right.
draft, there's five category guys, and it's hard to pass those up. And again, maybe that's why I don't win overalls, and others do. But because some very smart people like Ketel Marte, I'm not going to knock it at all. It's just not the way I build my roster. So that takes us outside of the top 100, and we're talking Nico Horner versus Jose Altuve. Nico Horner, ADP of around 105 over the last week on OCs. Altuve around 115. So going about 10 picks apart, Ben. Nico hits for average, ton of speed, little bit of power, but we kind of know who he's going to be, which is nice. And then there's Altuve, who keeps getting older. He's going to be 36 this season, but had another very productive year. Like some parts of his profile are dwindling. There's no denying that, but still extremely productive for his age. How do you approach the Nico Horner versus Jose Altuve? One's more of a power, one's more of a speed, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I would say it's the cop out answer, but it's my answer, and it really comes down to what you have so far. Do you have tons of power? Then maybe you go with Nico. If you want to kind of stay balanced, you go with Altuve. I have drafted both so far, so I don't dislike necessarily either one. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't probably target either one, but I have Nico ranked above Altuve. Yeah, they're back to back on my second base rankings, and I have Nico ahead of Altuve. I actually just moved out. I actually mentioned Altuve, I believe, in the DC to Fab article that I wrote for the Patreon
Yep.
as someone who I'm not as in on probably for Fab, and Altuve. He just his stat cast is even worse than it had been, and the way he pulled the ball kind of helped him outproduce his expected stats based on his Savant page. But you mentioned how old he is now, and his like exit velo is even worse than it had been, and it was already very bad to begin with, based in the last couple of years. And we saw a huge drop in his batting average, but his XBA always said he was always outproducing what he should have been doing anyway. But I think, like I said, he had like those soft line drives. He would pull the ball for the home runs. So I'm not going out of my way to target Altuve. I don't think the dual eligibility was nice for DCs. That's one of the spots where I have him. And then, so I ended up taking Nico in a team last year with Judge, and it worked out. So maybe in a scenario like that, but because Nico's powers, he's like capped at maybe 10 home runs. I don't know if I would want to do that in a main event because I kind of want to have more balanced production in my earlier picks. So I doubt I'll be likely to take either one going forward, but I definitely prefer Nico in a vacuum. And there's also, like I said, ultimately it's team dependent at that point, but yeah, I'd rather have Nico.
Yeah, Nico's obviously the guy I mentioned. He's my most targeted, I guess, expensive second baseman. Not crazy expensive, but he's the most targeted one I have. I like him a lot, and I think I know where I'm taking him is because I've tried to make a point to. It's kind of counterproductive to what you're saying. Like, it agrees with what you're saying. Is I want to have more power early, but then obviously Nico doesn't get you power. But in a lot of those early power profiles, not named Aaron Judge, you take a bit of a batting average hit potentially. I love Pete Alonso. Well, Pete could hit 270. We also know he can hit 220. So getting the Nico Horner really helps offset that, is what it comes down to. And so it's definitely the roster building to your point. But um, I've been trying to tell myself to get more power early on. Don't just settle for 30-30 guys, which is great, but like kind of take the next step potentially. Um, and I think Nico, unlike other batting average speed guys, at least Nico like has the ability to hit like 10 home runs in the process, where a lot of these other guys like a Xavier Edwards or something, like it's not great, and obviously goes much later. But so that's where I like Nico with Altuve. I love Altuve. I've always loved Altuve. I'm not just really excited about him this year because it's a good profile. I don't know if it's a top like 115 pick profile, if that makes sense. With the average dropping, like the power's there, the speed's kind of dwindling. It's a profile that if you look at outfields, you could get towards 200, if that makes sense to anybody. So if you're just looking at like a statistical profile, plus Altuve is just getting older, and eventually that other shoe is going to drop. And I don't know if I want to risk that draft pick, is what it comes down to. So both are fine. I go Team Nico as well. All right, two youngsters here. Luke Keeschel versus Sedane Rafaela. Keeschel ADP of around 128 over the past week. Sedane Rafaela 129. So they're going literally right next to each other. Interesting to see though, like if you look at men's and max, Keeschel 104 to 156, a 52 pick difference. Sedane Rafaela 113 to 146. So it's a smaller difference. Still a large gap between the two, as I want to point out there. So and that happens a lot at second base. Again, this is why it's a position that changes a lot from draft to draft with what you're doing here. But when you're looking at Keeschel versus Rafaela, Ben, to me, it's an easy answer. But I'm throwing it out there because people love Luke Keeschel. So what's your thoughts here?
So based on what you just said there, I think I know what you're gonna go with, and I'm actually opposite, but I have them literally back to back in my overall rankings. I have Keishel one spot ahead of Rafaela, and but as I mentioned before, I haven't drafted either one of them yet. I'm actually surprised that it's where's the ADP? I'm surprised
it's one pick apart basically.
that Rafaela isn't higher because I feel like everyone always talks down Keishel whenever I hear him mentioned, but the OC ADP isn't reflecting that. Granted, Keishel just like destroyed my Yankees today. It was spring training, but I kept seeing his name in the updates when the Twins kept scoring. So he had a good game today, and he's basically Nico Light, I believe, is how I would classify
That's
Keishel.
fair. Very fair.
He's the unproven Horner, so that's why he's going after him. But he's not going that far after him. And I prefer Keishel slightly because of the batting projected lineup position for them. Because Keishel's going to hit top three. Last I had it in my sheet, I have to, like I said, I have to update this still. Rafael was going to hit ninth, but it looks like he might hit seventh now based on roster resource. So this the extra plate appearances. I like that better for Keishel. And Rafaela has plenty of flaws too. So I know people like his upside. He was not quite 2020 last year, but in the power, he has better power numbers than Keishel at least. So he will hit more homers than Keishel. That's Rafaela. So it kind of comes. They're not similar enough. They're not dissimilar enough, I think, as Altuve and Horner, where it's more team build specific. It's funny how they both have the same eligibilities. Rafael's also second base outfield like Altuve was, but maybe you need Rafaela in your outfield. I know it's second base show, but you get that flexibility with him at least. I just prefer the position, the better average probably from Keishel, more steals, and he's going to hit top three probably for the Twins, maybe even top four. So that's why I slightly lean Keishel, but like I said, I have him back to back, even in my overall ranking. So it's not like I really prefer him that much more.
I like the comp you just made, the kind of poor man's Nico, the unproven Nico Horner. I think it's very fair because Keishel's got on paper. We haven't seen him put a full season together yet. That's my biggest thing with Keishel. I'm not saying he can't, but he's got the batting average, like you mentioned. He's got tons of speed. Power is a big question for me with Keishel. Some people say he's got 15 home run power. Some think he's got 5 home run power. Depends on what you see. We haven't seen it yet. Is the problem. We're like Raphael, the reason I pick him, and it's weird because to start draft season, I like Keishel. Then I took a step back because, especially in DCs, Rafaela, young as well, he's played at least 152 games in back-to-back seasons. To me, that's big. Like we've seen a good sample of Sedan Rafaela. We saw 15 homers, 19 steals, 16 homers, 20 steals. He's hit 246, 249, 241. So I think we kind of know where the batting average might sit with him. But I think there's a 2020 profile, which is great, where I don't think Keishel's got 2020, but Keishel could have 1035. So it goes back to your point, like, what do you believe in? For me, I'm taking Rafaela just because, which is weird because I picked Nico Horner in the last one. I get it. But I'm going Rafaela more so because I've seen him play basically 2 full seasons. I haven't seen Keishel do it yet. And so that's just kind of maybe a flaw in what I do is what it comes down to. And also, I pretty much, if I don't take one of the top second basemen, I'm not sitting here anyways. But yeah, I'm going to go Rafaela. It does stink. The biggest part that bugs me, and you hit on it, Keisha's at the top of an order. Rafaela's at the bottom of the order. That does add up after a while to like you've said that many times on our shows. And it's very true. So that is a bugaboo because if Keishel does stay healthy all year and hits the top of the Twins order, even though it's a bad order, that could still pan out tremendously. So there's a lot to be said to what you're saying there as well. So I'm taking Rafaela. You're taking Keishel. I think it's pretty much a coin toss in the end, and comes down to what can Keishel do for you. All right, let's get to Bryson Stott versus Matt McLain. This is where it gets really interesting here. We're skipping over a couple guys, but Stott's the 10th second baseman. McLain's the 11th second baseman over the past week in NFBC OCs. Bryson Stott's ADP is 183. Matt McLain's 185. So again, going right next to each other. And it's kind of a profile being like Bryson Stott's similar to Rafaela. We kind of know who he is now. We've seen pretty much the same track record for the most part the last couple seasons. Matt McLain, we have not. We've seen a really good year, then some injuries. So that's where and a great spring so far, which is also helping with this. So where do you sit on Bryson Stott versus Matt McLain?
Well, I'll also say that I have drafted each one once, kind of like with the Altuve Nico debate.
Sure,
so I'm fine with either one. Yeah, McLain is gonna skyrocket. He already has because he was like in the 200s before, and I remember I think Fish took him in the DC that you and I were both in ahead of his ADP at that point, and that kind of raised my eyebrows because Fish is a great player and he jumped McLain a lot, and then now McLain's going even higher in these OCs, which makes sense because you're going more upside in the OCs. McLain has that 2020 at least. The big issue has been his average, but I'm going to try to pull up real quickly from my memory. He doesn't have like a big swing strike rate. McLain, it's more he's more passive, I believe, and that's why he strikes out a lot. So his swing strike rate was 11% last year, 11.2, and the year before that, before he got hurt, was 10.5. Yet McLain's K rate was 28 both seasons, 28.5, 28.9. So I think it's not like he's Luis Robert or I don't know, anyone who just hacks up there and if they hit it, they hit it. He'll make contact when he swings. I think he just has to maybe be more aggressive. So I think the average may not be as bad. What I'm trying to say here is I think I have to readjust my rankings more for the fab because I have McLain significantly behind Stott still, and because it was cemented in that DC mindset where Stott, you're going to get 15 homers, probably 25 to 30 steals, which and on average that won't hurt you. So I guess you're kind of hoping for McLain to do that as well. The power has been 16, 15 homers, but he's battled injuries. I don't know. So maybe it makes more sense that they are this close. I just have to kind of get them closer together in my rankings because right now the way I have it, I have Stott over McLain. And it's kind of creeping into the 180s is kind of where I'm not trying to take too much risk yet in the main event because that's like your 12th pick. So you would rather rely on that player the whole year and have good production from them. So I don't know. I have to send this one some more, but the way it is, it's Stott, but there's definitely a strong argument for McLain.
Yeah, I was looking at my rankings right now from the draft kit, and I updated them not this past weekend, the weekend before. I'm going to update them again this weekend, and I have them 9 picks apart right now, and that's too far to what you're saying as well. I've always liked Matt McLain, like we talked about. This is the 10th and 11th. Yeah, because McLain's ADP is 212 is max over the last 7 days. To your point of him being on the rise, he's got as high as 142. Like
wow,
that puts him up there by Ozzy Albies. He's like the 8th second baseman off the board. at that point. So it's going to keep creeping. Like if we did this show next week, it would creep. I have McLean as my 16th, second baseman, Stott as my seventh. McLean shouldn't be the 16th for me. I should probably move him up a little bit, but it's just like over who. There's a few I could see moving him past. I've always liked Matt McLean. It comes down to what do we get? Because we saw kind of the 2023 season was awesome in 89 games. Missed 2024. 2025 played a full season. Didn't look comfortable. Still put up 15 homers and 18 steals though, which I like to see. Like that was the average stunk, but he still had the power and speed, which is good to see. If you really want to get at Zidane Rafaela, those are his power speed. He hit 20 points lower basically. So a lot of similar profile in that one. Um, Bryson Stott, I've always enjoyed. The platoon is always a question. I've harped on it on shows with Ryan that when Trey Turner was out, Stott played every day. He didn't platoon. It's more because they have players to platoon, and the Phillies still have players to platoon. So that is a bummer for Stott, but he still gets close to 150 games every year. He's going to get you, 10 to 15 homers, get you 30 steals, hopefully, which is good. I think McLean's got a much higher ceiling than Bryson Stott. Like if he's healthy, I don't think he gets platoon. I think he plays all season, and that goes a long way. So I should probably move McLean up a little more. I'm gonna take McLean over Stott. I have Stott ranked higher, just like Ben does. But if I had to do this in a vacuum, and I have a hunch when I do my rankings over the weekend, McLean will be much higher. And yeah, this will be interesting to see where his. I'm curious to see where his ADP just finishes, especially in the main event early drafts. He's a player I could see going super high, like we've been talking about.
Yep.
All right, next one we have here is the second baseman getting returned first baseman in New York, Jorge Polanco, with an ADP of around 210 over the last week. And then the bus driver himself, Otto Lopez at 224. So they're going about a round apart right now, but interesting profiles is the best way I'll say it. So where are you at on Jorge Polanco versus the bus driver, Otto Lopez?
Yeah, this one's not as close for me like the last or like the other ones had been. I have Otto significantly higher than Polanco in my overall rankings, at least. Not a big gap in second base, but because there's not many good second basemen yet, really. So, yeah, I definitely prefer Otto. It's because of the power and the speed, kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the preview for second base. I'd still rather have speed at second base. And I also don't really trust Polanco to necessarily do what he did again this year that he did last year because he had been hurt for so many years in a row. He's a year older. So I have targeted his profile in the past in main events at this point in the draft because hopefully I have enough speed by then, or I'm not as concerned with speed because there is fab. So I could see a time where I would rather have Polanco, but I think generally speaking, I prefer Lopez. He also has shortstop eligibility, which is nice. And if you miss out on shortstop or you rather just have two good ones, maybe you have Otto as your MI, and then he's your backup shortstop, and you're set. So that's also makes him more appealing in my mind. And yeah, it really comes down to the speed. I forget Otto had like mid-teens steals last year, whereas Polanco, you're lucky if you get 5. And Polanco's going to be productive if he's healthy. He should be at least. I don't know. I remember hearing that his strikeout rate dropped a ton. Who knows if that sticks? That was a big reason for his success, definitely. But I feel more comfortable with the profile that Otto gives you.
Yeah, I'm team bus driver through and through. Anybody else listens to any of my content is well aware of that. But he 15 steals last year with 15 home runs, hit 246. I've said before at his ADP, you give me that stat line right now. Good. We're good. Year before that, he stole 20 bags while hitting 270, hit 6 home runs. Last year struck out 14% of the time. Like the plate skills are great. The power and speed, I think, is legit. Like because he improved his power, his profile changed. Love everything about the bus driver. No real complaints here. And then with Polanco, it's less. There's a handful of things. Yes, the strikeout rate dropped from 29% to 15.5%. That's tremendous. It was 25-7. He has it. The last time he was this low was in 2020, where he was pretty much consistently in the mid-teens for a few years there. And we saw 26 home runs this year. It's because he played 138 games. Last time he played more than that was 2021. And he's only played more than that twice in his career. So injuries are a real concern with Jorge Polanco. If he plays a decent amount of games, the power is great. There's no denying that. But we just haven't seen it where Otto played 143 games last year and 117 in his basically rookie season. So he got a lot of run there. I got the bus drive. I'm really bullishly high on the bus driver, higher than probably most, definitely higher than anybody on the draft kit between me, Bloom, and Martin. I'll tell you that much. I'm very high on him. And when it comes to Jorge Polanco, where is he at on this list? Because I know I'm not very high on Polanco. Yeah, it's not bad. I have him as my 17th. I have Polanco as my 17th second baseman. And right now he's the 15th off the board, where Otto Lopez is the 16th second baseman. Let's just say I have him at the single digit ranges. I'm very bullish on Otto Lopez.
I have Auto 12, so I'm not too far behind you.
All right, a couple more here. A guy that I've loved year after year and finally feel better about drafting him because Luis Garcia Jr. is the 17th second baseman off the board. In years past, Ben, felt like he was like top 5, top 7, somewhere. Like you had to pay for him. Now Luis Garcia Jr.'s ADP is 247. And I got him going up against a veteran who I believe you had shares of last year, if I remember correctly, and Gleyber Torres, who's the 19th second baseman off the board with an ADP of 251. So these guys are going about 4 picks apart, give or take. How do you break down Luis Garcia Jr. versus Gleyber Torres?
Yeah, you were correct. I did have Gleyber on my main event team, the good main event team last year.
Yeah.
And he's who I had in mind when I was referring to Polanco because they're very similar profiles. They're almost identical. Maybe 5 steals now for Gleyber, ideally an average in the 260, 270 range. Polanco showed more power last year. Gleyber, I don't know if he can get to 20 anymore. The park hurts him a little bit when it comes to power, but it's the same kind of profile. And Gleyber should get a ton of runs and RBIs because I think he's projected to the bat top 3 for the Tigers, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a pretty valuable spot. Yeah, Roster Resource has Gleyber as the second baseman batting second. Behind McGonigal. That's interesting. So they think he's going to start the year in the majors.
That was another change today. You're talking about the Nats when they changed the Tigers as well today.
Yeah, that's a big change right there.
Yep.
So, and then I do like Luis Garcia Jr. though. He's actually one of my more roster second baseman at 2 shares.
Oh.
I've been spreading the love around with my early drafts just to not get too invested in any one player. But with Garcia, I'm not as worried about the first base eligibility with him. It's just more so that he's basically been what we want Otto Lopez to be the last 2 years, but he comes in a platoon.
Yep.
Garcia, that is. So like when it comes to my main event now, I haven't drafted Gleyber yet in my DC. I never did my DCs, but I did draft Garcia twice, and it was because of the speed. But now that I'm going to Fab leagues, I may lean Gleyber more because of the RBIs and the runs, and maybe the average should be comparable. So it's more of a team build thing. But I don't know. Garcia, I think we said this at the end of the year. We did the projections review. He was one of the guys who was most accurately projected last year by the systems that I was looking at. So he kind of returned what you should have expected value-wise, Garcia. And I think now the correction's almost too much because he's not going to hurt you in average. He went 16-14 last year after going 18-22 the year before that. So he went 18-20 in 2024 at 282 average. And then he went 16-14 with a 250 average. That's pretty good. So he has the upside for 2020 with a 270 average. So that's super valuable even if he's platooning. So I still have it where I prefer Luis Garcia Jr., but the platooning is an issue because I'm so focused not to like the extent where I'm going to bypass like a significantly like where I'm going to take a significantly worse player who's hitting full time versus a platoon guy. I'm not going to do that. But at this point where they're going similarly in ADP, I might lean Torres because he'll be in the lineup every day as long as he's healthy. But Garcia he's a great profile. So this is a tricky one. I definitely lean Garcia, but it's not like it's a landslide by any means.
Yeah, this is one that I'm usually Team Garcia through and through, and I am gonna still be Team Garcia on this. But the platoon, I think it's real. He's only played 139, basically 140 games each of the last 2 years. Like you said, 18-22, 16-14. Like these are the Otto Lopez stat lines in 10, 15 fewer games. Obviously, we'd like more games. We like to accumulate. That's the name of the game. That's why Gleyber Torres, that's my transition here, is actually interesting. Like I'm usually not on him, but in a 15-team league, Torres is very interesting to every point you made. And it really opened my eyes what's underdog of all places. When you click on their player page, it shows how many points they've got each, like the last 5 years or whatever. And Gleyber, and so it's an accumulation, the points league essentially. And that just shows you how much he is out there doing stuff all the time. And last year he walked 13.5%, which obviously didn't. He basically walked 10% or better 3 straight years. That helps in points leagues as well because he'll be an OBP machine. But he's going to hit for a decent average, like actually pretty similar average to Luis Garcia Jr., which is funny. Similar power, but it's the accumulations of the runs and the RBIs, to your point, which really differentiates the two. So if you're good in steals, Glaber's probably the play here, is what it comes down to. I always liked Luis Garcia Jr. I always feel like there's another level if they just let him play, but it's been pointed out, and I can't argue it. He does suck versus left-handed pitching. It's very true. Like, it's not good. I like to tell myself someday it'll change. It might not ever change. That's very fair. But yeah, I like Luis Garcia Jr. I still think there's a nice 2020 or better profile out there. But if you want a really solid floor that you can almost write the stat line in it year after year, just minus the speed, like Gleyber Torres is basically a cheaper Jose Altuve right now. Like if you look at their profiles, like you're probably getting anywhere from 5 to 7 fewer homers, but the rest of it lines up pretty close, especially if the steals keep reducing for Altuve. Like that's a very similar profile that you're getting between the two, and a lot later, so that's why. But yeah, I'm gonna go Garcia, but Torres is much closer than I used to ever think it was. All right, Marcus Semien, New York Met. Talk about a fall from grace here. He's the 20th second baseman off the board, ADP 261. And we're going up against the new Seattle Mariner, Brendan Donovan, the 21st second baseman off the board at 275. So they're going 15 picks apart, Ben. But in drafts, they can get changed. If you look at the mins and the maxes here, you got the veteran Semien, who finally showed he was human, then gets traded. And then you got Brendan Donovan. So how are you approaching these two?
I have them not too far apart in my second base rankings, but I have them 2 rounds apart in my overall, and I'm definitely taking Simeon in this battle. I think I actually had a note in my file where I said do not take guys like Brendan Donovan because there's no upside. Um, Even though he has a good average, I was looking at Donovan's yearly stats. His career high 14 homers, career high 5 steals. He hits like 280, which is good, but his career high in at bats is 587. He's never been above 65 runs. His career high of RBIs is 73. His next highest is 50. It's kind of empty batting average. And so yeah, Simeon did have he finally kind of collapsed last year, and he got injured. But everyone keeps talking about how bad the Rangers ballpark is for hitters, and now he's going to City, which isn't necessarily like a hitter's park, but it's more neutral at least than whatever. I think it's called Globe Life is the Rangers park. And Simeon's going to hit in the middle of the lineup. I know Donovan's going to lead off probably or close to it. So he'll get more plate appearances, but he's been around for a while now, Donovan, and he's just never been that appealing to me, especially now in a fab league. In the DC, it makes more sense because you have like that safe batting average, but I'd rather take the chance on the Simeon bounce back to just being 250 with just give 80 runs and 80 RBIs. He doesn't have to go back to 100 and 100 and 20 homers, and he's probably going to steal more than Donovan too. So give me Marcus Semien all day in this matchup.
Yeah, I love Marcus Semien. The ADP is such a fall from. I don't understand it honestly. Like, I guess you can make arguments that there's maybe more talent going in front of them to an extent, but I like Marcus Semien a lot. Obviously, had the down year playing 127 games after being a workhorse, but those workhorse years were 20 plus home runs, basically 15 plus stolen bases, like a 250 average, 260 to your point. So I'm jumping right back in because even on his injured years, 15, 11, 230. So we can roll with this. He should be hitting towards the top of that Mets lineup, which should be pretty good. Even if it's in the middle, it'll be just fine. So love Marcus Semien, and I've always been anti Brendan Donovan. Brendan Donovan is a really good real life baseball player. He is not a good fantasy baseball player. What he'll do for the Mariners leading off will be really good, probably, but it will not accumulate what we need for 5 categories in fantasy. So Marcus Semien for me, every day and twice on Sunday, pretty much. All right, last one we have here, 22nd second baseman off the board, Andres Jimenez, ADP of 333. So we're digging deep, but only because this is what happens with second base, folks. Going up against Luis Angel Acuna of the White Sox, going to be second base outfield most likely. His ADP is 343. So we're about 10 picks apart from Jimenez and Acuna Jr. What are your thoughts on these two?
It's another close one for me. So even though I had them earlier than the ADP for the OCs, I have it Jimenez one spot ahead of Acuna, but like around apart overall wise. So I'm leaning Jimenez here. If Acuna's spot in the lineup was more certain, then I might have to switch it. The problem is, well, like I said, I don't want to go off a roster resource, but they have a reason for doing what they do. And I'm pulling up the White Sox spring training stats, and the reason that I'm hesitant for Acuna is because of Brooks Baldwin. So Brooks Baldwin has 16 at bats so far in spring training, whereas Acuna has 10, I believe. So a slight lean for Brooks Baldwin, and he's the projected starter and center for the White Sox on roster resource. I also wrote in my file not to draft Andres Jimenez again because he burned me last year in one of my teams.
One reason I put this on here. I know you love.
Yeah, yeah, he was on my S list last year, big time. Jimenez, and I know Ryan's kind of going back to the well. I've taken both these guys. I think I have. I have Luis Angel Acuna. Oh, only once, and I think I only have Jimenez once as well. Yeah, so I've drafted both of them, and I'm fine with either one. Jimenez, he's gonna hit low in the lineup for the Blue Jays, but at least, like I was saying, he probably at least he'll be in the lineup for the Blue Jays. Whereas I'm unsure about Acuna. So yeah, Jimenez's Statcast is so bad. I feel like we've seen his best season now, and he will get shortstop eligibility. Acuna could get outfield eligibility. So I think just because the way things are now, I prefer Jimenez. But if we see that Acuna is going to start, then I would probably flip it where I would rather draft Acuna because I think his steals upside is way higher than what Jimenez is going to do now. Because Jimenez did have a couple, I don't know what if it was his calf or quad or hammy, something leg wise he hurt last year, and when he came back, he's never ran. So maybe that'll change after a full offseason of recovery for Jimenez, but I don't know. I don't think the power is there for him, and he after like that one good average year, he's been around 250 now, so he's not even really help you that much there. And he'll leave the games versus lefties, even though he's projected to play full time. So there's a lot more upside with Acuna. So if things look like Acuna will be starting or playing more, then I'll probably lean him. But for now, it's Jimenez, and I'd rather not take either one, I think.
Yeah, it's probably a pass in general. I have them three apart in mine. I have Jimenez 23rd, Acuna 26th, but I would have Acuna like by 10 picks ahead of him if I knew he was starting every day for the White Sox. It'd be pretty simple. Now, if I want to give Jimenez any love, it's like if you need speed, yes, he's going to run. Like we know, like if he gets on, he's going to run. So if you want a guy that's like 240 to 250 and could steal you 20 plus bags, he's your dude. Like to your point, I don't know what the power is anymore. I don't know what the skill set, the health. There's like a million things with Andres Jimenez. It's very questionable. But if let's just say you get that 1 year where it all comes together again, well, that's pretty sweet at an ADP. Where Acuna, like if you're in an OC, I think Acuna has to be circled for you to take a shot at late in the draft right now. At least if you're drafting like the next 2 weeks before they make roster moves, like if there's a chance, because if he does make the team, like his ADP is going to skyrocket. And this is one of those plays where you take your shot where in a 15 you kind of want the floor. You know Jimenez is the starter, so on and so forth. You go that route. In the end, you probably draft neither, but I don't mind giving Acuna some love on this one because I like seeing the pop he's showcased a little bit in spring. I think the skill set's very good, and the White Sox should play him. Brooks Baldwin should not be stopping anybody. Like Lennon Sosa's already on the bench because of these moves. Let's not get Acuna on the bench as well. But that's probably another conversation for another day. All right, Ben, any other second basemen that we have not discussed? We have a couple listener questions, but anybody else that you are interested in this year that you'd like to bring up?
So in I think it was a listener league auction, which is a fab league. I threw out Jackson Holiday for $3, and someone took him for $5 or something like that. So I think he's not going to miss a lot of time, and he's going. We skipped over him. He's going in the early 200s in OCs, which isn't terrible. So, of course, it's the hamate which questions the power, at least for me. But you and I both liked Holiday a lot more than Ryan did, at least, and some other people. He's very polarizing, it feels like. So maybe take a stab on Holiday but then again, I'm trying to not draft injured guys who are injured to start the year. But if he's back within it's not the same as getting burned on Gunnar Henderson like I did last year, where I'm like, he's gonna be back soon and just never fully recovered from the oblique. Jackson's going past pick 200, so maybe it's not as big of a risk. So maybe I would take that chance. And then besides him, I mentioned Chase Mydroth. I like him. He's dual eligible. He's going to bat leadoff for the White Sox. He should steal more than he did last year. Should have a better average. Really no power, but as a backup, that's fine. And then some of these guys I like more in DCs than I do for Fab leagues. I guess David Hamilton, if he ends up playing for the Brewers, he could be interesting.
That could be interesting for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so the depth that second base had was good for DCs, but now for Fab, I'm not as intrigued. Maybe Nolan Gorman, but he strikes out so much, and he's dual eligible.
Yeah, Nolan Gorman feels like a Fab play as well, or not a Fab, a DC play as well, just for the depth of second base, third base.
Maybe
See
he's
where it
streaming
goes
in the
from
right
there.
matchup though. If he's facing like 4 righties or something, I don't know.
In the chat here, Jeff McNeil might have a great year and possibly lead off. I don't mind him in like a 12 and a 15. I think he's volatile, Ben, but at a 12, I can see the appeal in Sacramento. It's just I've never been a huge McNeil guy, but the location could play pretty nice for him. What's your thoughts on Jeff McNeil?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this to you and Ryan, and people may have seen it on Twitter, but I was on the Sports Ethos podcast earlier in the week with Paul Williamson. We covered outfield, and he had McNeil as one of his outfield sleepers because McNeil is dual eligible second base outfield. Yep. And yeah, so he went to a pretty good park upgrade in Sacramento. He's projected to play full time, hit the middle of the lineup. I don't know if he's going to lead off like Angelo suggested in the chat, but he should play every day, middle of the lineup.
Yeah, I think he's middle of the lineup for sure.
Yeah, probably like 5th, 6th maybe. But he did have a great pull air rate last year, McNeil, so which kind of makes up for his subpar barrel rate. So yeah, I think he's someone I would definitely take as my backup second baseman or 6th outfielder for sure. I think he's a good flyer. I didn't want to mention him because I saw the comment in the chat, so I knew we were going to talk about him.
Yep, for sure. Some Discord questions. John Wilder says, Ben, if Anthony Volpe was second base eligible, where would you rank him? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Take 500. No. Let's see here. So he's injured. I don't know if I want to stash him in a Fab league. I did take Volpe in a DC.
I remember, folks, Ben's talking about a non-IL Fab league in FPC.
Yes, that's where my mind's at. Sorry. So
no, you're fine. I just want to clarify for people.
Yeah, and that's a good clarification to make. I would take him being Volpe. So it's based on my rankings, but I would take him. Honestly, I take him before Donovan because I'm not, like we said, I'm not a big fan of Donovan. So I feel like Donovan's a dead roster spot. I'd rather have this power speed upside of Volpe than Donovan. So wherever that falls. I like Beatty though too. So I have Beatty ahead of Donovan. So I would take Beatty, then Volpe, then Donovan if we're going off of those ADP. Probably.
Beatty's just so tough for me. I love Beatty until they made all their roster moves. Now it's like I think he's going to play, but it's going to be like a super utility role. So how much will that playing time be? That's my tough part with Brett Beatty right now.
I don't know if he'll stay as the DH all the time, but maybe it's like a 10th man situation. Who knows?
Like Greg, need to be slow pitch softball. Martin Sokolsky says in most instances you want a shortstop as your middle infielder, but if you had to choose a second baseman, what ADP pocket would you be most likely to choose from?
Oh, for our middle infielder?
From MI, yep.
See, it really depends on if you get an early second baseman or not. Because I feel like my cutoff, because your concerns about Beatty are pretty valid, where I did take him in a DC as a starter, but I backed him up as a third baseman with Alec Boehm, so a little coverage there. But so the question was, where would be good with our last middle infielder at second base?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Simeon.
That's kind of what I was looking at. I was looking at Simeon. Like I could have him as my second baseman or my middle infielder. I don't care.
Yeah.
But the rest of the pool, like there's guys I don't mind as late darts, like EC Light's always there, but let's be real, he's not the biggest fantasy asset in the world. It's just more fun poking Ryan. Like the only other guy you mentioned, Chase Mydroth, who in a 15 at middle infield I could live with if I had to, just for the power, like the speed and everything. Brooks Lee's also another guy I don't mind taking a shot on. He's second base, shortstop, third base, and I feel like we're about to see a nice profile outbreak from Brooks Lee this year because he is pretty good. But a couple more questions for you here. Adam W says, "Will Caballero carve out enough of a role to be fantasy viable in more than one category after Volpe's triumphant return?" That's funny, but kind of actually a real question. He just had to throw Volpe in there. Will
Triumphant.
Caballero still have a job? Like, I'm not taking Caballero. Some people are to take it while he's there. But what are your thoughts on if you draft Caballero? Is it going to be worth it after Volpe's triumphant return?
Yeah, I'm not gonna draft Caballero, I don't think. And
Yeah,
he's not. And I think Adam mentioned it in this question, but he's not anything other than a steals option. There's like nothing else in his profile, Caballero, that's gonna be productive. I don't think
agreed.
because
Agreed.
he's kind of strikes out a lot. He's projected for 25% K rate. What did he have last year? I think this is projected. He struck out 26% of the time last year, Caballero. So it's not even like he's a good bat the ball hitter. So yeah, and it's surprising that he's going even higher now in OCs because he has no power, Caballero. Where I feel
I think
like
people are just trying to like totally soak up all of the steals you can and then move on. That's what it feels like people are doing. Like I can't do it.
no, I'd rather build my speed from a more sustainable source and a more reliable one.
Yeah, like that 202 ADP. Definitely, you take Otto Lopez, you got Luis Garcia, Gleyber Torres, Marcus Simeon behind him, even Jackson Holiday. If you want to go there, then like you have McLean and Stott right in front of them. It's not an area where I'm looking to target Caballero. West Towney says, "Do you think Ozzy Albies moves up in the batting order with Profar gone?" I think that's a very fair possibility.
Let me look. So he's projected to be sixth. Yeah, because it might make sense to have Ozzy hitting above Mike Yastrzemski because,
Yeah,
I mean, the other option too is Michael Harris, but he has an awful OBP. So
yeah,
maybe, yeah, maybe Ozzy bats second, and at least versus lefties, I could see Albies moving up
agreed.
definitely. Um, yeah, it'd be weird for them to bat Yastrzemski ahead of him. Not necessarily like where Ozzy does have to be above Yastrzemski somehow. I think it makes more sense to do that. So, because I'm going off of what Rusty Resource has. So yeah, I think it's a good chance that Ozzy could move up higher.
Agreed. Totally agree. I think he should move up higher.
Yeah.
Colin M says, "How high are you willing to bump Matt McLean after his spring training performance?" We're trying to figure that out, but definitely moving him up is what it comes down to.
I forget if I mentioned him in the DC to Fab article, but I could definitely see him. Like I'm gonna buy in, but I might just get outpriced by other people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's going to be one of the big risers. I have a feeling when we see these drafts coming up here. Like, I'm even curious for that $5,000 DC that MTM's starting tonight, Thursday night. He's going to fly up that board too. So McLean's going to be one of the bigger movers these days. And
I
then
did get
West,
him though
yeah,
real quick. I got him in the DC auction, which I was very happy with. So I
nice,
have a share of McLean. So
because that price is about to get wild. Like, just for fun here, I have the auction or the ADP tracker up, and Ryan has auction prices on here. So Matt McLean in the most recent auction went for $11. That matches his high over the last 20 auctions. His AAV is $7, but it's been 11, 10, 7, 8 the last four. So it's going up for sure.
yeah,
Last question. West Towney says, "Who's your most drafted second baseman?" We talked about that at the top. Who is someone you're avoiding in drafts? Brendan Donovan seems fair.
uh, so I'll say my Cole Young is my most drafted second baseman because it's a DC
Ooh.
pick.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely a DC pick.
yeah, but he could be a fab option. So just keep that name in mind. Hopefully, the Donovan sign doesn't screw up his playing time. Cole Young's because of Colt Emerson making the team too. So we'll see. But my biggest fade, yeah, I don't have like the delta and ADP. Honestly, it's Caballero. I would say
That's
Caballero
fair
is
too for the
the biggest
price. Yeah,
fade, and then someone
Xavier
earlier in
Edwards.
drafts, I'd probably say
No,
Horner.
nothing.
Not Horner, Terang. I
Right.
say Terang probably is my of the better picks is probably my
The
biggest
better
fade.
picks. Yeah, the better picks. I guess I'm not purposely really fading any of them, but like Xavier Edwards, Caballero, Donovan, I'm actively not drafting in any of my drafts whatsoever.
Oh, definitely no Xavier Edwards for me either. He's another
Yeah,
one.
he's gone. Now he's got the calf injury, which is a bummer because I hate guys I don't want to take. I wish don't
Yeah.
get hurt because then it's one less guy in the play. Like, gosh, because someone else likes him. So now it's screwing up my player pool. But
My initial
we'll
thought
wrap.
is always like, yes, I'm safe. But then people say what you say. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of a bummer that he is hurt.
Yeah, we need them to actually play well for the spring. Fool people, go, go. Yeah, but it happens. All right, Ben, we'll wrap it up there. Second base in the books. Any final thoughts before we head out? And you'll join me again on Monday, barring a scheduling conflict of mine as usual.
I would just say for the listeners, don't be afraid of second base because there's plenty of. It's definitely more league size dependent, the perspective, but at least for me in 15s, it's not that bad. You just gotta wait.
Yep, it's better than it's not great, but it's much better than you think if you plan appropriately later on. Like, just don't plan for the 5 category guy. Plan for someone to fill out your roster. That's the way I
Yeah,
would say
there
it.
isn't a 5 category guy really.
No,
The closest
there's
would be
not.
Terang, but I don't trust the power to really be
Yeah. And
that
then it's
positive.
Jazz, but does he stay healthy and still hit for average? Like, it's tough. It's very tough.
Mhm.
But all right, we'll wrap it up there. Make sure y'all follow Ben on the Twitter at BreakingBen_T. I'm at BDentric. This was Bench with Bubba, episode 839, your second base preview. Catch y'all next time.